Ladies and gentlemen, life has a way of throwing us into situations where we encounter people who at their core are consumed by their own self-interest. They might not care about the harm they cause as long as they can preserve their fragile sense of superiority. A narcissist in their obsession with themselves might hurt you, betray you, manipulate you, deceive you, yet remain blind to the pain they've inflicted. So what do you do when a narcissist hurts you? How do you respond? First and foremost, you cannot let them get away with it. People often believe that the way to deal with narcissistic abuse is to remain silent, to ignore it, to somehow turn the other cheek. But that's a mistake. When someone takes advantage of you, when they exploit your kindness or your trust, there are consequences. There are consequences. Letting them get away with it not only undermines your own integrity, but it allows the cycle of harm to continue. The first punishment they receive is your withdrawal of trust. Trust is a currency in human relationships, and when it's broken, the account is closed. You stop offering them the benefit of the doubt. You stop believing their lies, and more importantly, you stop waiting for them to change. Narcissists thrive on the illusion that they are above reproach, and it is your duty to disabuse them of that notion. Second, you build boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, but they are essential to your emotional survival. When a narcissist crosses those boundaries, they will quickly learn that you're no longer a passive bystander in their games. You refuse to tolerate their disrespect, and they will have to find someone else to feed their ego. Third, you expose the truth. Narcissists often operate in the shadows, weaving a web of deceit. By shining light on their behavior, you strip them of their power. You don't do this out of vengeance, but out of a moral duty to set the record straight. The truth is a weapon, and when wielded properly, it is unstoppable. Fourth, you reclaim your worth. Narcissists feed on making others feel small, but they cannot diminish your value unless you let them. The moment you stand tall in your own identity, they lose their ability to control you. You are no longer just an object for their validation. You are a person worthy of respect, love, and dignity. Lastly, you walk away. There comes a point when you realize that no amount of confrontation or negotiation will change them. The only punishment a narcissist understands is your absence. You remove yourself from their toxic orbit, and in doing so, you liberate yourself. Now, it's important to understand something crucial. The punishment is not for them. It's for you. By taking these actions, you are not seeking revenge. You are seeking your own restoration. You are restoring your peace, your dignity, and your sense of self-worth. That is the true victory. When a narcissist hurts you, the first punishment is the withdrawal of trust. Stop giving them the benefit of the doubt and stop expecting them to change. Build clear boundaries to protect your emotional well-being. Let the narcissist know that disrespect will no longer be tolerated, forcing them to deal with the consequences of their actions. Shine a light on their behavior and strip them of their power by revealing the truth. This is not for revenge, but to set the record straight and dismantle their deceit. Stand tall in your identity and don't allow a narcissist to diminish your value. Recognize your inherent worth and refuse to let them control your self-esteem. Sometimes the only punishment a narcissist understands is your absence. Remove yourself from their toxic influence, liberating yourself and restoring your peace and dignity. When a narcissist hurts you, the first, most essential step in reclaiming your power is to withdraw your trust. This is not about being petty, vindictive, or spiteful. It is about preserving your emotional well-being and asserting your autonomy. Trust in any relationship is the foundation on which everything else is built. It's the bedrock of connection, intimacy, and security. But when that trust is violated, especially by someone who shows no remorse or understanding for their actions, it becomes imperative to stop offering it freely. Trusting a narcissist is, in a sense, an invitation for them to continue manipulating, deceiving, and exploiting you. A narcissist by nature thrives on the illusion of control. They need to feel that they are in charge, that they are above reproach, and that they can bend the world to their will. When you extend your trust to them, you are, in essence, giving them permission to govern how you feel, what you believe, and even how you view yourself. Narcissists are adept at exploiting the vulnerability that comes with trust. They may use it to manipulate you, make you doubt your own perception of reality, or make you feel guilty for demanding fairness. Trust in the hands of a narcissist becomes a tool of control, not a bond of mutual respect. The moment a narcissist betrays you, whether through deception, exploitation, or emotional harm, it is critical to recognize that they have shown you their true character. They have shown you that they are not to be trusted with your feelings, your vulnerabilities, or your well-being. It's not that they lack the capacity to change, but rather that they are not motivated to do so. Narcissists are, in many ways, incapable of seeing beyond their own needs and desires. Their sense of self-importance is so inflated that it doesn't allow room for empathy or genuine self-reflection. If you continue to trust them, you're enabling them to operate from this distorted, self-serving perspective. The act of withdrawing your trust is not an easy one. Trust, once given, creates an invisible bond between you and the other person, and breaking that bond feels like severing a part of yourself. But this is the very reason why it is so crucial. Trusting a narcissist, especially after they've hurt you, is not only a betrayal of your own needs and feelings, but it also perpetuates the cycle of harm. It signals to them that their actions do not have consequences, that you are willing to overlook their mistreatment for the sake of preserving the relationship or avoiding conflict. This kind of behavior only reinforces the sense of entitlement and diminishes your own sense of worth. By withdrawing your trust, you send a powerful message that you will no longer tolerate being manipulated or disrespected. You stop placing your emotional well-being in their hands, and you stop allowing them to have control over how you feel. So, it's important to recognize that trust is not something that can be freely given without conditions. When someone repeatedly proves they cannot be trusted, your trust should not be freely restored. Trust must be earned, and a narcissist is unlikely to demonstrate the growth, self-awareness, or willingness to make amends necessary to earn that trust back. The act of withdrawing trust is also an act of self-preservation. It is a protective measure that shields you from further harm. Without trust, you no longer have to rely on the narcissist for validation, approval, or emotional sustenance. You stop waiting for them to change or for them to apologize in a way that satisfies you. You stop placing your emotional life on hold, hoping that they will somehow come to their senses and treat you better. This withdrawal is not about closing your heart or becoming bitter. It's about recognizing the reality of the situation and choosing to protect your peace. It's also important to recognize that withdrawing trust doesn't necessarily mean severing all ties with the narcissist. In some cases, particularly if you share children or have other ongoing connections, you may still need to interact with them. However, it does mean that you stop expecting the same level of honesty, support, and care that you would expect from someone you truly trust. You no longer operate with the belief that they have your best interests at heart. Instead, you engage with them from a position of awareness and caution. This doesn't mean you need to be cold or distant, but rather that you remain emotionally guarded and refuse to give them access to parts of you that they have previously misused. It takes strength to recognize that someone who has hurt you does not deserve the privilege of your trust. It takes courage to stand up for your own emotional health and well-being, even if that means facing uncomfortable consequences. It also takes wisdom to understand that the narcissist's behavior is not your responsibility to fix. By taking back your trust, you are taking back control over your emotional life, which is ultimately the most empowering step you can take in healing from their abuse. When you realize that a narcissist has hurt you, one of the most vital steps toward reclaiming your emotional well-being is establishing firm boundaries. Boundaries are often misunderstood. People tend to think that setting boundaries is a way of pushing others away or being selfish. However, boundaries are actually a sign of self-respect. They are a declaration that you value yourself enough to not tolerate mistreatment. And they are a key component in protecting your emotional and mental health. Narcissists thrive on the lack of boundaries because it allows them to manipulate, control, and exploit without consequence. By setting boundaries, you assert your right to be treated with respect and decency. And you make it clear that you will no longer tolerate the emotional chaos they bring. Setting boundaries with a narcissist is not about trying to control them. It's about controlling your own responses and protecting your sense of self. When dealing with a narcissist, your boundaries will often be tested. They may push, manipulate, or attempt to guilt trip you into relaxing them. They will try to make you feel as though you're being unreasonable or selfish. This is a tactic they use to make you doubt your own reality, to make you question whether your boundaries are truly justified. It is essential to remain firm and unyielding in the face of these challenges. Remember, a narcissist's sense of entitlement and lack of empathy means that they view the world through a lens of self-interest. They are not concerned with your well-being, and they will only respect your boundaries if you enforce them consistently and assertively. The first step in setting boundaries with a narcissist is recognizing what is acceptable and what is not in your relationship with them. This involves a deep and honest self-reflection. You must ask yourself, what behavior will I no longer tolerate? How will I allow myself to be treated? Whether it's emotional manipulation, dishonesty, disrespect, or gaslighting, you need to identify the specific behaviors that harm you and make a conscious decision to draw a line. You don't need to justify your boundaries to anyone, least of all the narcissist. Your boundaries are there to protect your mental health, and they should be respected, period. Once you have a clear understanding of your boundaries, you must communicate them clearly and firmly. Narcissists may test your boundaries repeatedly, so it's crucial to communicate them in a direct and unambiguous way. This means saying, I will not tolerate being spoken to in that manner, or if you continue to lie, I will not engage with you. There is no room for ambiguity or indecisiveness. Narcissists thrive on confusion and manipulation, so being firm and clear in your communication is paramount. They may try to challenge or argue against your boundaries, but this is where the next step comes in, remaining consistent. Remaining consistent. Consistency is key. You cannot afford to be flexible or lenient with a narcissist. If you allow one instance of their behavior to slide, it sends the message that you are willing to accept mistreatment, and they will exploit this weakness. Setting a boundary once and then ignoring it later does not work. A narcissist will interpret this as an opportunity to push further, knowing they can get away with it. Each time you enforce a boundary, you strengthen your position. It's not about making them a learner or a change, because a narcissist is not interested in change. They're interested in getting what they want. Instead, enforcing boundaries is about teaching them that their behavior will no longer go unchecked. It's important to note that while setting boundaries is essential, it can also be emotionally exhausting when dealing with a narcissist. This is because narcissists are often relentless. They may gaslight you, manipulate you, or try to make you feel guilty for standing up for yourself. They might use guilt, shame, or even anger as a tool to make you feel responsible for their discomfort. This is where it becomes vital to detach emotionally from their reactions. Their feelings are not your responsibility. By holding firm to your boundaries, you not only protect yourself from further harm, but also send the message that their behavior has consequences. In some cases, setting boundaries with a narcissist may involve creating physical or emotional distance. This might mean limiting the time you spend with them, or in extreme cases, cutting off contact altogether. Distance allows you to maintain control over your own emotional space and ensures that the narcissist does not have free access to your energy, attention, or trust. While this may feel difficult, especially if there's a history of emotional manipulation, it is crucial for your own emotional recovery. You cannot heal in an environment where you are constantly being undermined, controlled, or invalidated. When you set and enforce boundaries with a narcissist, it's also important to recognize the toll it might take on your emotional well-being. You may experience feelings of guilt, sadness, or even doubt. This is natural, especially if you've been conditioned to believe that your needs and feelings are secondary to the narcissists. Over time, however, the clarity that comes with setting boundaries will help you rebuild your self-esteem and confidence. You will begin to see that you are deserving of respect, and you will realize that you are worthy of relationships where your needs are met with empathy and care, not manipulation and disregard. Lastly, setting boundaries is not just a protective mechanism. It is a step towards reclaiming your personal power. It's an affirmation of your right to stand up for yourself and demand fair treatment. Narcissists are used to operating in a world where they are allowed to take without giving, to manipulate without consequence. When you stand firm in your boundaries, you challenge this dynamic and reclaim your own agency. You are no longer a passive participant in their toxic game. You become the active architect of your own emotional life. By establishing and maintaining boundaries, you not only protect yourself from further harm, but you also send a clear message that you value yourself too much to be treated otherwise. Exposing the truth is one of the most potent tools you have when dealing with a narcissist. Narcissists, by their very nature, operate in a realm of deception. They often craft elaborate lies, manipulate the truth, and distort reality to fit their own narrative. This can make it difficult for those around them to see the true nature of their behavior. But when a narcissist hurts you, it becomes essential not only for your own healing, but for the sake of integrity, to expose the truth of what has transpired. This isn't about revenge or seeking some form of punishment for them. Rather, it's about reclaiming your voice and dismantling the false image they've created. The narcissist thrives on secrecy and control. They often go to great lengths to maintain an image of perfection, superiority, or victimhood, all while concealing their manipulative actions from the outside world. If you allow them to continue spinning their false narrative, they remain unchallenged, and their behavior is allowed to persist unchecked. By exposing the truth, you break that cycle. You bring their lies into the light, where they can no longer be used to manipulate or control you. But this process isn't as simple as just telling others about their behavior. It's about sharing the facts with clarity and conviction, without the expectation that others will immediately accept your version of events. One of the first things to understand when exposing the truth about a narcissist is that your truth is valid, regardless of how the narcissist may try to spin it. Narcissists are often extremely skilled at gaslighting, an insidious form of psychological manipulation that makes you question your own reality. They twist situations, distort facts, and create confusion to undermine your confidence in your own perceptions. In these situations, it's crucial to stand firm in your understanding of what happened. You know the reality of what you experienced, and that understanding should be the foundation for exposing the truth. It's also essential to recognize that exposing the truth is not about proving the narcissist wrong or seeking some form of validation from others. It's about simply telling your side of the story. Narcissists often try to discredit you, dismiss your experiences, or claim that you are the one in the wrong. They may resort to smear campaigns to damage your reputation, especially if they feel threatened by the exposure of their behavior. However, by sticking to the facts and remaining calm, you undermine their attempts to manipulate the narrative. The truth, when communicated clearly and without emotional charge, has a weight that is difficult to dismiss. Part of exposing the truth is recognizing that you are not responsible for the narcissist's reaction to it. Narcissists will often react with anger, defensiveness, or even more manipulation when their actions are revealed. They might attempt to turn the tables, accuse you of being the problem, or even play the victim in an attempt to shift the focus away from their own behavior. It's important to be prepared for these tactics and not to engage in the emotional chaos they may try to create. The narcissist's reaction is a reflection of their own insecurity and need to maintain control. Your task is to stay grounded in your own truth and not to allow their emotional manipulation to derail your message. Exposing the truth can also be incredibly liberating. For too long, you may have carried the weight of their lies, kept silent about their manipulative behavior, or even second-guessed yourself. When you expose the truth, you release that burden. You stop carrying the shame, confusion, and self-doubt that they may have instilled in you. This process of exposing the truth is not only a means of standing up for yourself, it's also an act of self-care. You are no longer silencing yourself or shrinking back. You are asserting that your experiences are real and deserve to be acknowledged. When it comes to how you expose the truth, it's important to approach it in a way that serves your well-being, not just your desire to be heard. You don't need to broadcast every detail of your experience to everyone, nor do you need to seek validation from others in the process. Sometimes exposing the truth simply means having a conversation with trusted individuals who can provide support, understanding, and validation. These individuals can help you process what happened, reaffirm your perspective, and ensure that you're not alone in your understanding of the situation. In other cases, especially if the narcissist's behavior has caused significant harm, it may be necessary to take more formal action. This might involve confiding in a therapist, seeking legal advice, or sharing your experience with people who can help hold the narcissist accountable. The key here is to ensure that the truth is told in a way that respects both your dignity and your need for safety. While exposing the truth can be an incredibly powerful act, it's essential to make sure that doing so doesn't place you in a more vulnerable or damaging position. Exposing the truth also provides an opportunity to take back control of the narrative. Narcissists often work tirelessly to construct a false image of themselves and to manipulate how others perceive them. By exposing the truth, you give others a chance to see them for who they truly are. While you cannot control how others react or what they choose to believe, the truth is powerful enough to shift perspectives and spark change. In many cases, people may begin to question the narcissist's behavior once they see through the mask. Finally, it's important to understand that exposing the truth doesn't guarantee that the narcissist will change, nor is it an attempt to teach them a lesson. Narcissists are rarely motivated by truth or logic. Their behaviors are deeply ingrained, and they are unlikely to admit their wrongdoing. Exposing the truth isn't about changing them. It's about freeing yourself from the grip of their manipulation and giving yourself permission to heal. It's about taking ownership of your story, refusing to allow them to rewrite your experience, and allowing others to understand the full scope of what you've been through. In doing so, you reclaim not only your peace of mind, but also your strength. It's strength. Reclaiming your worth after a narcissist has hurt you is not just a necessary step. It's a radical act of self-liberation. Narcissists are incredibly skilled at making others feel small, insignificant, or unworthy. They rely on constant validation, often at the expense of others. And they do this by systematically undermining their target's sense of self-worth. When you've been in the grip of a narcissist manipulation, it's easy to forget your own value. You might have internalized their criticisms, absorbed their gaslighting, or believed their lies about who you are. However, the moment you decide to reclaim your worth, you are not just taking back your self-esteem. You are actively rejecting the narrative they've tried to impose on you. The first step in reclaiming your worth is acknowledging that their perception of you is not the truth. Narcissists project their own insecurities onto others, and they often use tactics like belittling, devaluing, and dismissing to maintain control over those around them. These behaviors can make you question your abilities, your appearance, or even your character. When someone repeatedly tells you that you're not good enough, it can be easy to internalize those messages. But the truth is that their views are distorted reflections of their own deep-seated fears and needs, not objective realities about you. Recognizing this is the first step in freeing yourself from their toxic influence. What a narcissist says about you is a projection of their insecurities, and it has nothing to do with your actual worth. It's also essential to recognize that reclaiming your worth involves disconnecting from the idea that your value depends on the approval or acceptance of others. Narcissists often thrive by getting people to rely on their validation, making others believe that their worth is tied to the narcissist's approval. When you allow this pattern to take root, you give the narcissist the power to define you. To reclaim your worth, you need to take back that power and redefine yourself on your own terms. This is an act of radical self-love, an acknowledgement that your value doesn't come from how others see you, but from who you are, independent of external approval. The next step in reclaiming your worth is to forgive yourself for the ways you may have allowed the narcissist to hurt you. Narcissists are often charming, manipulative, and persuasive. They can make you feel as though you are the problem, that their abuse is somehow your fault, or that you're unworthy of anything better. But the reality is that their behavior is not your fault. They exploit the vulnerability and empathy of others. And if you've been hurt by them, it's because they took advantage of your goodness. However, it's vital that you don't blame yourself for this. Recognizing that you were manipulated or taken advantage of is a form of self-compassion. You are not weak for having trusted someone, nor are you responsible for their malicious actions. Forgiving yourself doesn't mean excusing their behavior. It means releasing yourself from the shame and guilt they've tried to impose on you. Reclaiming your worth also involves setting higher standards for how you allow others to treat you moving forward. When you've been involved with a narcissist, it's easy to become accustomed to poor treatment, as narcissists often work to break down your sense of self so that you accept their mistreatment as normal. To truly reclaim your worth, you need to set boundaries that reflect your new understanding of what you deserve. You are worthy of respect, kindness, and honesty, and no one should be allowed to treat you otherwise. This might mean walking away from relationships or situations where your worth is diminished or where you are being manipulated. Setting these boundaries is not an act of arrogance, but rather an act of self-respect. You are making a clear declaration that you will no longer tolerate being treated as less than you are. Another crucial aspect of reclaiming your worth is practicing self-care and self-compassion. Narcissists often wear you down emotionally and mentally, leaving you feeling drained, anxious, or worthless. After enduring such harm, it's important to nurture yourself and rebuild your emotional energy. This might involve spending time doing things that make you feel good, surrounding yourself with people who uplift and support you, or seeking professional help to process the damage caused by the narcissist. Self-care isn't just about physical well-being. It's about giving yourself the emotional space to heal and rediscover who you are beyond the damage done by the narcissist. It's about prioritizing your own needs, desires, and emotions without feeling guilty. Reclaiming your worth also involves remembering your strengths. Narcissists have a way of diminishing the positive qualities in others, trying to make you feel as though your accomplishments, talents, or kindness don't matter. When you start to remember what makes you exceptional, whether it's your creativity, resilience, intelligence, or compassion, you reconnect with the power that lies within you. Taking time to reflect on your successes and positive attributes can help you rebuild the sense of pride that the narcissist worked so hard to erode. Surrounding yourself with people who see your value can also be immensely healing, as they remind you of the qualities the narcissist tried to diminish. Finally, reclaiming your worth requires that you begin to embrace your own authenticity. Narcissists often try to make you doubt your own instincts, desires, and personality, forcing you into a mold that suits their needs rather than allowing you to be your true self. To reclaim your worth, you must return to who you truly are, your unfiltered, untainted self, and allow that version of you to flourish. This means embracing both your strengths and imperfections, accepting yourself fully, and no longer hiding parts of yourself in fear of judgment or rejection. When you embrace your authenticity, you send a powerful message to yourself and to the world that you are worthy of being loved and respected for exactly who you are. Reclaiming your worth is a process, a journey of healing, rebuilding, and rediscovery. It doesn't happen overnight, and it won't be without its challenges. But every step you take towards recognizing your value and rejecting the narcissist's toxic narrative is a step toward freedom. You are not defined by the narcissist's words or actions. Your worth is inherent, unshakable, and independent of anyone else's opinion of you. By reclaiming your worth, you free yourself from their grip and reclaim the power to live a life that is true to you. Walking away from a narcissist is often the most profound and necessary punishment they can receive, though it may not always be the easiest. Narcissists thrive on control, manipulation, and the attention of others. They often use emotional manipulation to keep people tethered to them, making it difficult to break free. When you decide to walk away, you take away their ability to control the narrative, to keep feeding off your energy, and to continue abusing their power over you. This step is not about punishing them for the sake of revenge, but rather about reclaiming your own emotional autonomy, finding peace, and taking back control of your life. The decision to walk away is a deeply personal one, but it is also an act of liberation, freeing yourself from their toxicity, their lies, and their manipulation. One of the most powerful aspects of walking away from a narcissist is that it deprives them of the validation they constantly seek. Narcissists feed off admiration, attention, and the ability to manipulate others into validating their inflated sense of self-worth. When you walk away, you stop feeding this cycle. You stop giving them the emotional supply they require to feel superior. This absence of attention, especially when it comes to their former victims, can cause a narcissist to feel disoriented, unimportant, or even desperate. While they may try to create a narrative that paints you as the villain or someone who is abandoning them unjustly, your decision to walk away is actually an act of self-preservation, not cruelty. Walking away also serves as a form of emotional self-protection. Narcissists are often skilled at exploiting their victims' weaknesses. They know how to manipulate your emotions, twist your words, and make you feel responsible for their actions. Over time, this constant emotional drain can leave you feeling exhausted, uncertain, and emotionally depleted. Walking away is a way of putting an end to this cycle. It is a way of protecting your mental and emotional health from further damage. By stepping away, you stop subjecting yourself to their emotional games, to their need for control, and to their toxic influence. One of the challenges of walking away from a narcissist is the fear of guilt or shame that can accompany the decision. Narcissists often rely on guilt tripping to manipulate others into staying. They may try to make you feel selfish, heartless, or ungrateful for everything they've done for you, even though their actions were often self-serving or manipulative. They may invoke memories of good times or promises of change, which can cloud your judgment and make it feel harder to leave. It's important to remember that their tactics are designed to confuse and control you, not to facilitate a healthy relationship. When you walk away, you are not abandoning them. You are choosing yourself over their toxic behavior. The guilt that they try to impose on you is a product of their manipulation, and it is not your responsibility to carry it. Walking away from a narcissist also means accepting the fact that they may never change. Narcissists rarely show remorse for their actions, and they are almost never capable of the introspection required to alter their behavior. They may promise to change or even express regret, but these apologies are often manipulative ploys meant to keep you within their grasp. When you walk away, you acknowledge that you have done everything you can, that you have tried to make it work, and that continuing the relationship would only bring you more harm. It's important to understand that your efforts to fix the narcissist or change them are futile. Narcissists do not change because they do not see their behavior as a problem. Walking away is, in many ways, an acceptance of this reality. A recognition that no matter how much you care for them or want to help them, they are incapable of offering you. It's important to understand that walking away is not about closing the door forever, but rather about removing yourself from the toxic environment the narcissist has created. It's about taking a step back, gaining clarity, and giving yourself the space to heal. Narcissists often create a sense of dependency in their victims, leading them to believe that they cannot survive without them. Walking away is a reclaiming of your independence, a recognition that you are capable of thriving without their influence. It is an empowering act that forces you to confront your own needs, desires, and boundaries. There are many practical aspects to walking away from a narcissist, especially if there are shared responsibilities or long-term commitments, such as children, property, or financial ties. In these cases, walking away may require setting firm boundaries, seeking legal assistance, or even cutting off all contact. It may not be easy or straightforward, but it is a necessary part of protecting your emotional and mental health. Even in situations where complete separation isn't possible, limiting interactions with the narcissist or keeping communications to a minimum can help reduce the emotional toll they take on you. Walking away, in this case, can mean setting clear limits and refusing to engage in their manipulative games, even if you still have ongoing contact. Another aspect of walking away is understanding that it is okay to mourn the loss of the relationship. Even though the narcissist hurt you, it's normal to feel sadness, anger, or confusion about walking away. This emotional reaction is a natural part of the healing process. It's important to give yourself permission to grieve the relationship, acknowledge the pain that was caused, and eventually move forward with a sense of clarity. Walking away doesn't mean you don't care about the person. It simply means that you value yourself enough to stop tolerating mistreatment. It is an affirmation that you are worthy of love, respect, and healthy relationships. Lastly, walking away from a narcissist is an act of self-love. It's an acknowledgement that you deserve better treatment, better relationships, and better experiences. It's about choosing your well-being over the toxic chaos that the narcissist perpetuates. This decision might be difficult, and it may require courage, but the freedom that comes with walking away is worth the challenge. By walking away, you break the cycle of abuse, regain your emotional freedom, and begin the process of rebuilding your life on your terms. The narcissist may try to re-enter your life, but the boundary you set by walking away is one of the most powerful statements of self-respect you can make. In the end, healing from the wounds inflicted by a narcissist requires strength, self-awareness, and a deep commitment to reclaiming your power. The narcissist will continue to manipulate, deceive, and hurt if given the opportunity. But when you stand firm, when you expose the truth, when you reclaim your worth, and when you walk away from the toxic cycle, you take back control of your life. You embrace your ability to choose peace over chaos, self-respect over self-doubt, and authenticity over manipulation. Remember that this journey isn't about punishing the narcissist. It's about freeing yourself. Their world revolves around their own needs, but your world must revolve around your own well-being, healing, and growth. By taking these steps, you not only protect yourself from further harm, but you also send a powerful message that you will no longer tolerate being treated as less than you deserve. The road to healing may not be easy, but with each step you take, whether it's exposing the truth, setting boundaries, or walking away, you are choosing the path of self-liberation. You are choosing to honor your worth, to nurture your soul, and to step into a life where you are no longer defined by someone else's toxicity. The narcissist may never change, but you have the power to change your story, to redefine your future, and to build a life rooted in strength, peace, and the recognition of your own unshakable value.